Hello my friends, and welcome back to my channel. It's Mommy here. In my channel I do a variety of pregnancy, motherhood, parenthood, and other lifestyle content in this channel. If this is the first time you're in this channel, make sure you subscribe. It really means the world to me if you can join the fam by pressing that subscribe button. My goal is to eventually get to 1,000 subscribers, so hitting that subscribe button will mean the world to me. In today's video, I want to share with you my 2-week wait symptoms leading to my BFP. Ta-da! I am so nervous, I'm so anxious, I am so grateful. I have a mixture of feelings because this is the first time you're on my channel. I've had 2 miscarriages before. One is I miscarried at 7 weeks, and I also had a chemical pregnancy, which is like an early miscarriage. So, you know, having gone through that make it super hard to be like 100% celebratory when you have a positive pregnancy test. But as of now, I'm pregnant, I'm excited. So let's dive into my 2-week wait symptoms. I actually note down all the symptoms even from before my ovulation so that, you know, I can be as comprehensive as possible. If you have been to my channel, you know that I've been doing this 2-week wait videos for the past 2 months. The first month that we tried to conceive, we actually conceived, but it ended up in a miscarriage, a chemical pregnancy. And the second month that we tried to conceive, we ended up not getting pregnant. So I did a 2-week wait, not pregnant versus pregnant comparing to 2 months. And now I'm getting a BFP again. Like, I'm sure the first response is just today is 15 DPO, and my test line is darker than the controller. It's what we call a dye stealer. So if you're wondering how my lines are progressing on first response, I'll insert a picture at the end of this video. So I track my cycle with my Apple Health. I also used a Apple Watch Ultra 2 to measure my wrist temperature. So ever since we started trying to conceive, I've been using a ovulation kit to test, to pinpoint what day that I ovulated. So I'm gonna let you know that a lot of times when I see these videos, if you're using an app, some people say they didn't have a positive test until like 17 DPO, or they had a super early positive pregnancy test like 5 DPO. Problem is, a lot of times if you just use the app will tell you, oh, you ovulated on cycle day 14. But if you have a longer or shorter cycle, you may ovulate on cycle day 12, or you may ovulate on cycle day 17. Both has happened to me before in the past when I used the ovulation kit. So just FYI, the only way to pinpoint ovulation day is to use a ovulation kit and use it correctly, measuring your ovulation, the LH surge, and also use basal body temperature method to tempt when your basal body temperature increased after the ovulation, so we can pinpoint which day or time period that you ovulated. All right, so starting from cycle day 12, my ovulation symptom actually started on cycle day 12, which to me was very unexpected. Just being lazy. I'm not gonna test my ovulation until like maybe a cycle day 12, 11 or 12, because then I can test 12, 13, 14, and then, you know, to see which. But when I took a ovulation test on cycle day 12 during the early afternoon, it was very positive. Like, I had a LH surge on cycle day 12, and I was like, oh my god, I thought I would ovulate on cycle day 14 or 15 just like my previous month, but no, I'm ovulating soon. So I told my husband, oh my gosh, we're so behind, we need to do the baby dance right now. I know that trying to conceive craziness just kick in. On cycle day 12, in the evening, I had a left side pinch on my pelvis, like, you know, uterus, like pelvic floor area. So I felt like it was like an ovulation. I had a, you know, a LH surge, so I tested again that night. It's not as peaking as the noon time, but it doesn't matter, because like the OBGYN said, the moment you have a LH surge, like on peak, there's no need to test again, because that means you are going to ovulate 12 to 36 hours after that first crazy surge, because it's the surge of LH hormones that trigger the ovulation. It's not the fact that you have high LH, it's the fact that you had a surge from low to high, like shh. So I felt super bloated that day. I actually went to a wedding, and it was such a beautiful wedding, but at the wedding all this time I was like, oh my god, I'm so bloated, I can't just sit down because I need to stand up because my belly is like super bloated. It felt like I was pregnant, but I wasn't. It was just super bloating, which actually is very consistent from my previous ovulation symptoms. Is when like on the day or day before ovulation, I always have some sort of bloating. And the cycle day 13 is my possible ovulation because my temperature, my wrist temperature actually rose. It went higher on cycle day 14. So cycle day 12, I had LH surge. Cycle day 14, my body temperature rose. So the most logical reasoning is that cycle day 13, I had ovulation. So cycle day 14 in the morning, like very early in the morning, I was driving my baby to the daycare. I felt my side pinch on the right. So to this day, I'm not 100% sure which side that I ovulated. There is a chance I ovulated on both sides, but there is also a chance that I only ovulated on the right side. Maybe on cycle day 13, I had a little bit more cramp after the ovulation, but maybe it just, I don't know, it's so weird. Because first I felt the left side pinch on cycle day 12 late at night, but then I felt right side pinch on cycle day 14 early in the morning, but I ovulated in between. So I'm not sure where I ovulated because I did feel lower back pain, but it felt like towards the center of my lower back, so I wasn't sure. Cycle day 14, I had light cramps at night. I think it was just the hormones, like when you ovulate, there's certain hormones released that gives you a little bit cramps. That's why I have the midterm schmirch. It's like a German term, schmirk. It's like when you ovulate, have a little ovulating pain, but it was very light. Okay, so cycle day 14 was technically my 1 DPO. DPO stands for days past ovulation. So 1 DPO is 1 day after the ovulation. Right, so starting from now, instead of saying cycle day, I'm gonna say DPO. After the first DPO, on second DPO, day DPO 2, I had slight cramp. I felt very gassy. I had a lot of creamy CM, which is very different from the ovulation fertility CM, because when you ovulate, you have this very stretchy, watery CM. But after the ovulation, your CM kind of got a little bit more creamy, kind of become white color instead of clear. I had more right side light pinch cramps, and I had creamy CM at night again. Maybe I ovulated on the right side, maybe the left side ovulation pain was just some hormone or hip issues, I wasn't sure. So 3 DPO, I had nausea when I was driving in the sun to pick up my baby. But this is also not a pregnancy symptom. This, I think, is slightly related more to the ovulation, because after the ovulation, there's progesterone going up, and sometimes I react to progesterone not well. At 3 DPO, I had some light cramps again late at night. I was like, maybe it's gas, but I didn't eat much gassy food. I felt like it's not gas, but it felt like light cramps. That's either my period is coming or I have gas. All right, so 3 DPO is when I started to have the right side migraine. And this is what I say, it's not related to a pregnancy, it's related to the progesterone. So in the luteal phase, which is the phase, the 14 days after ovulation, before your period, is when your progesterone starts to rise. And when the progesterone starts to rise from pretty low to medium level, I always have migraine. Every single month, I always have a little migraine during that time for about 1 to 5 days, which is kind of sad. 5 days is long. It depends on the month. For DPO, I had nose bleeding in the evening, like at night, which is actually one of my previous pregnancy symptoms. But I think it's also because my baby smacked me on the nose. But my baby smacked me on the nose all the time. Environment is dry, or there's a little trauma, or like it burst a vessel. But for DPO, I was dripping blood. Like in the past, every time I nosebleed, it's more of like, oh, I feel like I want to sneeze or I have a runny nose and get a tissue paper. I blow my nose and then there's blood in there. But this is dripping blood, which is something I think one of my pregnancy symptoms in the past is like I'm more prone to bleeding. because I already have a bleeding disorder, but this could also be because of my bleeding disorder, so we never know. I had a slight migraines in the evening, and I got so emotional watching children's cartoons. I feel like I'm not an emotional person when I watch TV, but I was also watching a childhood cartoon. It's a Japanese cartoon that I watched in Chinese. Little girl, the main character, she's very similar to me when I was a kid. The cartoon is just so wholesome. I'm gonna link it right here. Like, this is the cartoon that I watched, and I cried over every single episode, and each episode is like 10-12 minutes. I couldn't control myself. I was bawling. I was like, this is so wholesome. This is like, I'm like, oh my god, this is so unlike me. So that's a 4 DPO. All right, so 5 DPO is interesting. Firstly, when I was pregnant with my son, I started having implantation symptoms starting at 5 DPO. So I am not 100% sure if that's the case this time, but at 5 DPO, I had some creamy CM. Oh, I never specified what CM is. It's cervical mucus. What is cervical mucus? It's mucus from your cervix. Your cervical mucus changes throughout the cycle. It's a good indicator of fertility. It's a good indicator of other things, even a good indicator like if the labor is near. 5 DPO, I had a little bit of CM, which is cervical mucus. I had late night increased urination. I woke, or 1 a.m. I went to the bathroom, 3 a.m. I woke up at night to go to the bathroom. It was kind of weird, but it wasn't, there were no other symptoms. There was no implantation symptoms. So I was like, yeah, it's probably just the luteal phase when that react to the hormones. At this time, I did notice that this cycle felt a little bit different from last cycle, but I was trying not to get my hopes up because, you know, it was so early. My PMS, I had no PMS symptoms yet. All right, so 6 DPO is what's interesting. So at the beginning of 6 DPO at midnight, I felt the left side pinch. It's when it was like 12 a.m., 12:30 a.m., like when it just went from 5 DPO to 6 DPO, I felt a pinch on my left side. It's like maybe I'll relate it on the left side, but I was just not sure. You want to pee in your bladder? I was like, maybe it's my bladder. Maybe it's not an implantation. I also had insomnia at 6 DPO, which is actually a telltale sign for implantation from when I was pregnant with my son. So when I was pregnant with my son, I had insomnia at 5 DPO. I just couldn't sleep. I felt anxious no matter how I tried. I couldn't sleep, and then I wake up. During the window of implantation, for some reason, when I was pregnant with my son, I felt insomnia for about 2 to 3 nights. So at 6 DPO, I also felt a little left side breast tingles in the morning. That was also very similar from when I was pregnant with my son. I think when I was pregnant with my son at late night 5 DPO, towards the end, it's almost like 6 DPO, I felt my right side breast start to feel tingling. Very interesting. The implantation symptoms were so similar to when I was pregnant with my son. So that's why I'm very hopeful for this pregnancy, because at least I felt like I did this part right. My body did the implantation right. Throughout the day, I had more bowel movement, which is another pregnant symptoms I had when I was pregnant with my son. People always say that they have constipations when they're pregnant. I never had constipation when I was pregnant. You know when I have constipation is I always had constipation when I am PMSing. If I have a bad PMS premenstrual symptoms, then I had a little constipation. But every time when I'm pregnant, my bowel movement is very smooth. I don't know why. So I had more bowel movements throughout the day that day, but I didn't have diarrhea. Evening, I had a lot of creamy white CM, cervical mucus. At 6 DPO, I had a bigger appetite. I felt like if I don't eat, my stomach was grinding myself. So I had to eat a little bit so it doesn't grind itself. So it feels like maybe a little bit more stomach acid. I got car sick at night. Oh, I remember that day I actually attended a wedding. I was a bridesmaid, and I remember like me and my husband and my baby was acting up, and he also threw up. My husband was trying to take care of my baby, and his plate was served, and I asked him if he was gonna eat anything. He's like, no, I'm just gonna eat something later at the party, because we went to a Halloween party afterwards. So I decided to eat my plate and his plate. So I ate 2 dinner plates at the wedding. Another bridesmaid at the table, she was like, huh. And she's like 30 weeks pregnant. She's like 31 weeks pregnant. And she's like, huh. You were eating more than me being pregnant. And I was like, I'm just very hungry. I'm like dying hungry. So at night, I got super car sick. I had a huge bloating at night. Like my belly was like, my belly looked like I was 5 months pregnant. Because when my first pregnancy, I didn't show until like 20 weeks. I had no bump until 20 weeks. Okay, the most interesting thing is the next day, which is 7 DPO. Okay, 7 DPO, starting midnight. Remember I told you I went to a wedding first, and then I went to a late night Halloween party. So when we got home, it was kind of like 11-ish. At midnight, I went to bed super late at 1 a.m. So I had left side pinch, but then the actual cramps, like full-on cramps, was on the right side of the cramps. So to this day, I'm not sure where the baby implanted. When I was pregnant, last time with my son, I knew it was on the right side. This time I was like, left side, left side, right side again? It's weird. I don't know. Twins do not run in my family, and I have no fertility treatment. The only thing I did was acupuncture. Right side cramps at 1 a.m. and that officially is a 7 DPO, and I definitely had major implantation cramps in my uterus at noon. Felt my uterus had this pinch and tingle sensations. It's like a sharp, like, it's different from your period cramp. It's so different. It's like, it's not as dull as period cramps, because period cramps looks like, to me, period cramps feels like that's what period cramp feels like. But the implantation cramp feels like it's like someone like scratched your uterus in there. It's sharp but not intolerable. So I felt this pinching sensations starting at 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It comes in waves. So for 4 hours at 11, starting from 11, I feel like, and wait for a few 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then another 10, 20 minutes. It was like, implantation is happening. But after 4 p.m., after my husband came home from something, I don't feel it anymore. I had slight migraine on the right side that day. My cramps, my implantation cramps, stopped in the evening, like after like my husband came home like 4 or something. And that night, it was a football night because it's Sunday. My husband and I were sitting there watching TV, I think football. And my Simba, I have 2 cats, but Simba is the one that's very like emotionally attached. We're very like emotionally connected. My Simba just suddenly become very clingy. When I went to take a shower, when I came out of my shower, he's just right there like waiting for me. And then I walk out the shower, he just followed me there. When I went to the couch, he just lay in front of me, front of my legs, so I couldn't stretch out my legs as much just because he was laying in front of me. So my Simba always had this behavior when I was pregnant. Even during my chemical pregnancy, Simba was just very protective, and that's how I knew I was pregnant. So my Simba just suddenly become very protective, very clingy, like very like, I'm just guarding you right here, right now. Good sign. I was telling my husband, I was like, look at what Simba's doing. Simba's like right here. Like he only does it when I'm pregnant. This is the most interesting was a 7 DPO. After 7 DPO, 8 DPO is a Monday. 8 DPO is very interesting. 8 DPO, I had vivid dreams last night about wedding, then school trip. It's so vivid that I felt like I was living in my dream. I woke up to pee at 3 a.m., which is a telltale sign that I'm pregnant. The fact that I had dreams and I had to pee during this time usually means I'm pregnant, because pregnant changes your brain waves, it changes your REM sleep, it changes the the rhythm, circadian rhythm of you. I had nose congestion on 8 DPO. Okay, this is what prompted me to take a pregnancy test. It's the next symptom. In the morning, I made myself a regular latte, coffee latte. I was trying to sip my coffee while driving, and I tasted metallic. The coffee tasted bitter, sour, and metallic. It's like you're tasting a coin with milk. It's like, what the heck? And that was exactly what my coffee tastes like when I was pregnant with my son. But the problem is, when I was pregnant with my son, I didn't have this metallic taste until 6 weeks and maybe 6.5 weeks. I started have aversions towards coffee at 7 weeks. Full-on aversion. Cannot drink coffee anymore at 7 weeks. Initially, it was like, there is no way that I can have this symptom 3 weeks pregnant. No way. I didn't even have a positive test yet. I didn't even miss my period. Dishwasher detergent or whatever. So I went to the store. I bought disposable cups. I used that for a cold coffee, and all I taste was metallic and sugar and milk. So I also had a heightened sense of smell, but I'll talk about that later. I also got car sick when I was driving. The daycare, I had a full-on car sick. I felt nauseous when driving the car, but after I came home, if I'm not driving, I don't have the car sick. And my body and my fingers felt very puffy that day. I think my puffiness is somewhat gone, but that day was like, I don't look like myself. It was 8 days before expected period. There's no way. So, but I used a Amazon Chippy, and I did not use the first morning urine because I did not think, I didn't plan to take a test that day. The only reason why I wanted to take test after I drop off the baby was because of the coffee taste, pregnancy test. But since I drank a lot of liquids, I diluted my urine. But here's the thing, I don't think it was fully negative because even that day I said maybe a shadow. I feel like there was a shadow, maybe evaporation line. So I was like, it's inconclusive. Let's not call it negative, let's call it inconclusive. That day I went to teach yoga, and when I was teaching yoga, I could smell the guy in the corner laundry detergent. And I remember when I was pregnant last time, I could smell everyone, like what everyone use for their laundries. It's annoying. Like when I teach a yoga class with like 10 to 20 people, I can smell, oh, you use Tide, you use the Downy, you use, I was like, I can smell your shampoo just 6 feet away. It was annoying because I was getting overstimulated by the smell. So I was like, that's a pregnancy symptom, but I always have a good nose. So that day I also did a workout. During the workout, I had a hard time catching my breath. When I was working out, I just felt like I was throwing up. I felt slightly nauseous after lunch during my workout, and I just thought that I ate too much and had indigestion. So I felt like something was in my stomach that makes me having a hard time like this catching my breath. And then after lunch during the workout, I felt a hard time catching my breath. I was peeing a lot that day on ADPO. I had creamy CM, a lot of creamy CM at night. I had super oily skin that night. I just cleaned my face, and then I was just eating, watching TV and stuff, and before my bedtime, and my skin was oily again. And I had forehead acne and whitehead. I don't know if you can see it. There's several of them. Like at ADPO it was worse, but I had a lot of whitehead around my forehead, a lot of like cysts. All right, so now 9 DPO, my basal temperature was high. I had a very faint line with the Amazon Chippy. It was a very visible shadow, but it's only visible to my eyes. So I decided to take a first response, and it was positive. And insert a picture right here. I had metallic taste of coffee that day too. I felt I was hungry earlier of the day. Usually I don't have to eat breakfast, and that day I felt like I had to eat breakfast because I felt hungry. I had a lot of puffiness around my eyes and fingers. Calves are very swollen. I felt maybe a little bit sore breasts, but not full on yet. My bra definitely felt more tight, so my boobs got bigger, and I had more CM, cervical mucus. All right, so now 10 DPO. 10 DPO in the morning, I did a live pregnancy test, and I upload that video in my main channel. In the morning, when I woke up, I had full on sore boobs. Like I could feel my boobs touching my pajamas and it felt hurt. I slept in for the whole 9 hours. I was still very sleepy. I had major brain fog. I had a lot of anxiety when I thought my baby lost his stuffed animal. Like I think that's what we call mood swings, right? It's like a tiny little bit of triggers gives you a crazy big reactions emotionally. That's what I felt. I felt puffy and swollen fingers. I had tingling sensations in my uterus, like pinching of the nerves, but it felt different from the implantation. I had bleeding gum, lost the urge to snack at night. DPO, I felt like, and I was like, what snack do I want to eat? I ate a bite, I was like, I didn't like the texture. It's too dry, and I just don't want snack, which is very weird because at 10 DPO I did a first response. The line was still kind of faint, so I did a Clearblue digital, and this is what I consider a BFP. No one can argue with this. All right, so 11 DPO, I peed a lot, like every 30 minutes I had to pee. Nausea when I was hungry, but if I eat, I don't feel nauseous anymore. Just my heart rate, my resting heart rate went up to 80. So from 59 to 80, it only took me like 3 days. I had shortness of breath. I went to a workout that day. I felt super dizzy during the workout. I felt a little bit lightheaded. I had more cramps that actually hurt the entire uterus. That makes me a little nervous. I couldn't walk or stand for too long without feeling tired, dizzy, and lightheaded. I was feeling very tired. I had a lot of bloating, like crazy amount of bloating. I felt very gassy. Full-on pregnancy symptoms, just like I was like 7 weeks pregnant. But they also say that your second pregnancy feel a little bit different, your body reacted differently, and you kind of know. That day, I felt like even if I hadn't tested, I would be so sure that I was pregnant because, you know, it's so pregnant. I felt so pregnant. I still had sore boobs. I had lightning crotch, which scares me sometimes. And then my whole body was a little bit sore and tired. All right. So 12 DPO was a Friday. I had a little bit of swollenness during the day. It was just the water retention that makes me look very puffy. That makes me feel like I'm like 10 pounds heavy. The swollenness actually reduced significantly at night. My 6-pack came back, and it made me so nervous. I was like, oh my God, my pregnancy symptoms is dropping. I don't want a chemical pregnancy anymore. I did not feel thirsty in the morning, or I didn't have frequency of urination in the morning, which made me I felt nauseous in the afternoon though, after I ate Brussels sprouts for lunch, and every time I burp, it was this disgusting Brussels sprouts. I had a bitter metallic taste in my mouth. I had no appetite in the evening, which scares me sometimes. I still had a heightened sense of smell, and I woke up at 3:30 a.m. to pee. Honestly, I did not feel as bad as 11 DPO. So my 12 DPO symptoms were very strong in the morning, but like kind of went down. I was very worried because I felt more pregnant at 11 DPO than 12 DPO, but my uterus felt very hard. I had very bad lower back pain and a lot of tingling sensations in my uterus, but not a lot of cramps, like no cramps in my uterus, which is very different from 11 DPO when I had a lot of cramps. All right, so 13 DPO, I had even less symptoms than the previous day, and I think my basal body temperature also dropped. That made me so nervous because the drop of basal temperature usually means my period is coming. So at that time, I was very worried for chemical pregnancy. I was just so worried. But I took a pregnancy test. The line is very strong, and the month that I had chemical pregnancy, my line was very faint. So the fact that I have a very strong line makes me feel better, because you know your body temperature could change depending on the weather as well. I woke up at 6 a.m. to pee, not at 3 a.m., which makes me a little nervous. I had a lot of bitter taste in the mouth, but not a lot of symptoms that day. Symptoms at 13 DPO compared to 12 compared to 11. I was like, why is my pregnancy symptoms not getting stronger, but it was getting lighter? So I was just so worried about chemical pregnancy. So I started taking more and more pregnancy tests. At 14 DPO, I had a lot of lower back pain. I had a slight tingle sensations in my uterus. I had shortness of breath and dizziness, slight dizziness during the workout. So I have to take it super easy, make sure I monitor my heart rate, don't let my heart rate go too high. I opened a green tea, Ito green tea matcha drink, and it tasted funny. It tasted sour and bitter, and it tasted it's expired, but it wasn't, because I gave the tea to my husband and he was like, oh, it tastes great. I was like, it tastes like expired green tea. It tastes like rotten. And then he's like, no, it tastes great. I'm like, okay, then green tea is not, I'm not drinking green tea anymore. My temperature dropped again at 14 DPO, which makes me super nervous again. I felt really sleepy. I no longer want snacks at all, but if I'm hungry, if you give me my favorite snacks, I will eat it. I felt very gassy at 14 DPO, vivid dreams at night, woke up many times. Actually, these are the symptoms at 15 DPO, because then I went to bed, and this morning I put on more symptoms. I woke up like many times, like insomnia. I woke up at least like 4 times last night. When I was streaming, I was so aware that I was streaming and that I would make decisions to change the dream. That to me was pretty crazy. So I had lucid dreams. Today, I'm officially 15 DPO. I took my last first response. So now it's time to show you the pregnancy test line progression. Show you right how. So you can see that my lines were progressively getting darker. Even though my 15 DPO didn't progress too much from the 13 DPO, but I think it was considered a disealer, that like the test line is way more obvious, stronger than the control line. So even though my body temperature kind of decreased, I felt like the fact that my pregnancy tests were going strong, it means my HCG is increasing. And at this point, today's 15 DPO, it's the starting of my 4 weeks pregnancy. I decided not to test anymore because I already had a disealer. It's actually pretty pointless to test more after this. At this moment, you just really have to leave it to God or the universe to really make sure that you have a healthy baby. I can only do whatever is my side to make sure I'm healthy and try to eliminate the toxins. Apparently, use only clean household products and try to eat cleaner. So yeah, this is my 2-week wait symptoms leading to BFP, and this is my picture of my pregnancy line progression. So if you're ever getting pregnancy tests, I highly recommend the first response early detection. And if you get a faint line, you're not sure, get the Clearblue digital early detection, and it will tell you you're pregnant or not. First response to me is the best. So I have a strong BFP today at 15 DPO. And guess what? Today is 1 day before my expected period, but because I ovulated earlier than the textbook, that is why my 15 DPO, it's still before my missed period. Will go well. Please pray for me that this will be a healthy pregnancy. Hopefully this one will go really well. So I already told most of my friends about my pregnancy. I feel like if anything goes wrong, I do not want to be alone in this journey. That's why having my friends' support really helped me in my past miscarriages, and I hope no more miscarriages, only healthy pregnancy from now on. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Those are my 2-week wait symptoms that leading to a BFP. This is our 3rd cycle trying to conceive. The first one ended up in chemical, the second one we failed. But if you look at research for healthy adults under 35, the chance of conceiving each month is only 20%, which means I think the reason why I was pregnant the first time was because I felt very fertile. I think it's because I just stopped breastfeeding completely, and 2 months after I completely stopped my breastfeeding, my hormones were like just rushing back. I felt very fertile. So I think the reason why I was pregnant faster this time, because I'm more fertile. But I'm also very cautious about my lifestyle choices and chemicals. So if you've been trying to conceive, to your doctor, and watching these videos about 2-week wait symptoms and watching these videos from other pregnant women, it really brings comfort to me that knowing that I'm not alone in this journey, even though like people who are not trying to conceive do not understand that what you're going through. I just feel like every time I listen to other people's symptoms, even if it's different, it just bring comfort to me that like I'm not alone in this journey. So if you're watching this, I just wanted you to know that you're not alone in this journey. So that's it for today's video. Before you go, make sure you subscribe. And my goal is to vlog this pregnancy in this channel. I have a main channel that I do a lot of shop with me, Costco food reviews and stuff like that. But I hope to share more of my pregnancy journey in here. So if this is the first time you're in here, make sure you subscribe and also check my other videos in this channel, and ring the notification bell, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Happy trying!